Hey everyone, what is going on? My name is Archer Live, and in today's video, I'm going to be doing my ultimate walkthrough to stealth heists in Payday 2. I'm going to be covering all my pro tips and best bits of advice I would give you guys for carrying out a stealth heist in Payday 2, things I've picked up over the time I've been playing the game over the last few years, and just in general, for people who are just starting out in the game perhaps, how to handle going quiet rather than running in guns blazing. Before I talk about how to actually successfully stealth a heist, I want to talk about what to bring into the heist you're trying to stealth. First off, if we talk about skills, you want to invest a lot of your skill points into the Shinobi subtree of Ghost. Most of the stealth skills you need are located in there, whether it's for improving how many body bags you can carry, whether it's the ability to loop cameras, or the ability to improve your ECM jammers and deploy 2 rather than 1, and so on and so forth. There are other skills you might want to pick up, such as Jack of all trades in the Technician skill tree, or more movement skills related to the Artful Dodger subtree of Ghost, but that's where I'd focus with Shinobi. That's where I put your first skill points if you're starting out as a fresh player. As you may notice in the gameplay that I'm currently showing you guys right now, I have now got a second account for Payday 2, so if anyone wants to join on games there, you can also see that. That's a bit of shameless promotion, but I thought I'd just clarify. Haven't changed my Gamertag, it's a separate account. But yeah, when you start out, that's kind of where I'd focus with stealth skills. Movement speed is quite good, so maybe put a couple of points there, but really focus on Shinobi. That's where you want to put a lot of your effort and a lot of your attention if you want to try and improve how you act in a stealth heist, just in general, in keeping in the shadows, staying sneaky, and staying out of sight of trouble such as guards and civilians. The second thing you want to consider is what weapons you're bringing into the heist. Now, you might think that damage is the most important thing for any gun across whatever you do in Payday, but that is not necessarily the case. If a guard hasn't seen you, you can kill him with one shot from any weapon that you're carrying. So it's only when he spots you and you've done something perhaps that makes you noticeable that actually you don't need one hit, you need a lot more than that, and it will vary between difficulties. Perhaps on one down it will take a lot more damage, particularly on Murky Water guards, on certain heists such as Murky Station and Shadow Raid. But ideally, you want to kill guards when they can't see you to make sure that you get them with a one-hit kill, and then you don't have to take damage into account, and a lot more options become available, because what you need to focus on really is concealment. And that is the stat that basically says how easily you could hide your guns if you were kind of hiding them on your person, you didn't want a guard to see them, that kind of thing. So you want to aim for 30, that's the golden number, that's the key number people tend to go for, at least for your actual guns. For melee weapons it's slightly different, I'll talk about it in a second, but there are, a certain type of gun for both primary and secondary, and there's usually one in every weapon category where you can go, that seems like the right one, I'll bring that in as a concealable gun. There are plenty of assault rifles. Personally, I recommend the Cavity 9mm. It's from the Golden Grin DLC heist, so obviously it doesn't appeal to everyone who doesn't own the DLC, for instance, but it's a really good, really small, and actually quite a handy little assault rifle because it is select fire. You can just fire it into people's backs one shot after the other, and usually you get enough shots before you have to reload. But there are plenty of other guns. Even the basic Car 4 is quite concealable when you put a few applications onto it, a few mods. Don't know why I call them applications. Go with it. You can put like different mods on different guns, and not necessarily their base concealment stat will correspond to what their final concealment stat is, because certain guns can have more mods to them than others. So the key thing is not just to look at the base concealment stat, but also go, okay, what mods have I got that can increase concealment? Have I got any basic stat boosts, for instance? Are there any grips that will increase concealment? Are there any changes to sights and stuff? Do I need a sight on my gun, really? Can I go without it? Can I go with iron sights, keep the concealment up? There's loads of things to consider, so don't just blow a weapon out the water if its concealment doesn't seem as high as other ones. Usually, I think you want a base concealment of 20 or above, because usually you can get quite close to 30 with attachments and so on and so forth if it's around at that point. Obviously, this goes without saying, but suppressors are an absolute must. I'd say just have them on one gun, but ideally have them on both, because we all know that switching to your second weapon is always faster than reloading, and if you switch to your secondary and find that that doesn't have a suppressor when your primary does, you're in trouble. So if you played the game enough, you've got enough paydays, you should have suppressors for pretty much every weapon in the game. If not, just make sure your weapon of choice has one available, attach it, take it into the heist. But that's something you really need to remember, and if you have started the game fresh, like this gameplay I'm showing, maybe you don't have suppressors, and as a result, you might need to use melee weapons a little bit more. And obviously melee weapons are also quite important in your overall detection risk because they have their own concealment stats as well. If you've put skill points into the Shinobi subtree in the way I suggested you have, you'll also have a +2 stat boost to concealment across all of your melee weapons. My weapons of choice include the Nova Shank and the Winged Butterfly Knife, one of which is free, one of which isn't. There's plenty of options there. There's over 5 pages of melee weapons to choose from, so there really is no kind of question as to whether there'll be something for you. There's bound to be. And on top of that, throwables, make sure you take something that won't make noise. So don't bring dynamite, don't bring molotovs, don't bring grenades. You want something like throwing knives, javelins, ace of spades, shurikens, anything along those lines. Ace of spades are free if you don't own any DLC packs, but anything else, if you have a DLC pack that contributes to, quiet throwables, use something from one of those DLC packs, get your money's worth. But other than that, just make sure you stay quiet. If you bring a loud grenade or something, then really you need to question your life choices, because I don't really know what you're doing stealthing if you plan on throwing grenades at the first guard that spots you. Really not the idea of stealth. I don't know why you're watching this video. But anyway, we're going to move on and look at gameplay. But the final thing we need to consider before we actually start the heist is your assets and your pre-planning. Sometimes you'll get one, sometimes you'll get the other, sometimes you'll get both. It depends on the heist. More recent heists released with new DLCs, etc., tend to prefer pre-planning over assets. Assets were more of a thing that were released with the base game, and the heists featured in the base game back in 2013. But we're going to cover both and just discuss what they actually offer. Now, some assets such as Expert Driver are not applicable to stealth in any way, shape or form, but others such as camera feed, extra keycards, things like that are completely designed for stealth and are used to help monitor the map, get extra advantages, and use perhaps, as I said, extra keycards to get into certain areas of the map you might not have managed to without those assets. Those are just things you can buy in the menu. There's a fixed cost for them, and once you've bought them, you find them in the heist afterwards. The person who buys them is the person who pays for them. That sounds obvious, but sometimes people think, oh, the host will pay for it even if I pick it. No, you buy the asset, you front the costs. That's just the way it works. But it's in instant cash, and chances are it won't really make much difference, apart from if you're a very, very low level and you're trying to rub pennies together. The other option is pre-planning, available in most heists that you can stealth, and basically it brings up a blueprint of the map, shows you all the key areas, and basically allows you to have a lot more freedom over to what you have in the heist before you start than just buying random assets. From here you can choose where to spawn certain things. Again, there are different things for loud heists, but not everything applies to stealth, such as spawning doctor bags and ammo bags. But you can have body bag spawns, you can choose where your camera feed goes. In bank heist, for example, you can pick additional cameras to go in certain areas of the bank. You can even have spy cams that instantly mark guards that walk into the way of them. It's really handy and saves you from having to walk around in casing mode or just get up near a guard to try and mark him, because the map does it for you, and it's really, really convenient. There are also other assets such as vault keys for bank heists and things like that, just for general ease and general kind of convenience. But the things to focus on, really the things that will give you the edge in stealth. Anything that helps moving loot and etc., I don't think that's a priority, because as long as you've stealthed it, you can handle everything else no matter how long it takes. But make sure that you make the most of your pre-planning. You have a certain amount of favors that you can execute and you can use in the heist. The reason you have favors, it's kind of like a real-world application. There are only so many kind of criminal things we can place in the map before the cops start to notice. So if you left like 50 keycards in certain locations of the bank, guards might go, why are there so many keycards loose in the map? I think I better call, I think we're going to get robbed, kind of thing. So there's only so many things you can do before it looks a bit odd, a bit suspicious, and that's what your favors represent. And different items in pre-planning will have different favor costs, and also different monetary costs. Just like assets, the person who picks the pre-planning object has to pay for it, but I want to illustrate a little scenario to explain how it's slightly different with pre-planning. So imagine that a player who is not the host has purchased a body bag case to spawn outside of a bank. If the host doesn't want that person to place it down, they can hover over that asset and undo it. If they press A on it again or accept whatever button it is for whatever platform we play on, then that asset gets removed. Whatever the client person picked as a body bag case, wherever they picked it to spawn, it'll disappear from the map. It won't come in when the heist starts. However, the host, if they want, can then put it down themselves, and they have the final say. The client can't undo that. The host has basically said, I'm choosing to pay for it, that's my decision, accept it, that's it. There's no other kind of influence over that. But whatever a client picks, it's completely up for debate. The host can choose and change what other clients pick. So something to bear in mind, if you put a Dr. Bag case down in kind of a job that you just join randomly, and then you go into the heist and suddenly realise it spawned somewhere else, chances are the host didn't agree with you and they put it somewhere else. And the same goes for stealth. You put a body bag case down in one area, might be in a different area because the host didn't agree with you, but usually you tend to find hosts are quite accepting and just kind of go with what other people suggest, especially when they're not sure what to put down themselves. But keep in mind that cooperation is key when you're deciding how to start a heist, especially in stealth, and talking to your teammates is more important than anything else. Executing stealth without communication with other human players is just really difficult, and it makes it a lot harder than it needs to be. But before we even think about detection risk, there is casing mode. Now, not every stealth heist has casing mode, I'm fully aware of this. There are certain heists, specifically stealth-only ones, such as Murky Station and Shadow Raid, that do not have a casing mode. It's just straight away you put your mask on, you go and do your stealth thing. But in general heists like the bank heist, jewelry store, diamond store, all the kind of heists along those lines, you can go in, survey your surroundings, and then afterwards put your mask on and get to work. Now, surveying your surroundings might sound like something you don't need to do, but actually for people who don't know maps as well as perhaps I do or other people do, it's actually very useful, because that's how you watch guards and watch their patrol routes without them realising that you're a heister trying to study them. If you do get right up in a guard's face in casing mode, you will be spotted, you'll be detected instantly, there'll be no warning, and your mask will be put on. a whole crew will be compromised and the heist will go loud. So the thing to remember is while you're trying to survey guards, just keep a little bit of distance. They may start to notice you if you're kind of a few meters away and not quite up in his face, but close enough so he can make out your facial features. It will take a little longer than normal if you had a mask on, but your detection risk will start to go up. But because it goes up really slowly in that scenario, you'll notice straight away that you're too close, and it gives you perfect opportunity to back away. If you get spotted in that situation, it's just because you weren't paying attention and you didn't realise that you had to act on the guard noticing you. But after that, you can look around the map, you can mark cameras, mark guards, you can point out to your perhaps other teammates who aren't in casing mode or are just kind of waiting to see what you have to say. Maybe you're the kind of stealth master and they're kind of waiting to see what you've got to advise for them. You can go around, show them key points, mark different things in the map, and, basically get more of an idea of what there is to offer. Earlier I mentioned detection risk, and basically I want to explain what that actually does. It's a stat on your character that determines how long it takes for a guard or just someone of authority in a stealth mission to spot you. Now basically, the closer you are to that guard, the faster they'll spot you, but the lower your detection risk, the longer it will take in general. The minimum detection risk you can get is 3, the maximum is 75. For stealth, I recommend 10 or under, but 3 is really key. If you can get 3, 4, 5, you're absolutely golden, you're set for a stealth heist. But the key thing is beyond that, being able to survey the distance between you and points of interest. If you're trying to look at a guard, for instance, and you don't want him to see you, make sure you're at a long distance if you're going to try and run past him, perhaps. If you try and run past a guard that's right in your face, chances are you ain't going to make it past his nose. He's going to see you, he's going to try and cuff you. It really isn't worth the risk. Don't try it. But if you're at a decent enough distance and you think, could probably run across that corridor and just get there before my detection risk maxes out, then it's absolutely fine. And don't worry, your detection risk will reset once you break line of sight with whatever's seeing you. It'll take a little bit of time for it to cool down, but it will reset back to the value you had when you started the heist. Now let's talk more about the nitty-gritty things and the two main features of any stealth map: guards and cameras. Guards can be scattered across the map in whatever number possible. It depends very much on the heist. A standard bank heist or jewelry store, Ukrainian job, diamond store, the very, very basic heist that came with the base game, they don't tend to have any more than 4 guards. And that's very convenient because when you kill a guard in stealth, you have to answer his pager. It's basically a little excuse that your heister comes up with for why there was a noise from the guard. You talk to the operator and just go, nope, everything's fine, but you can only do that up to 4 times. So if you answer a 5th pager on a heist that has more than 4 guards, basically the alarm gets sounded instantly. It will also be sounded if you disconnect from the pager halfway through the call, or if you completely ignore it and let the pager go unanswered for a certain period of time. The only way you can delay a pager is by placing an ECM jammer down just before it triggers, but that requires a certain skill. Once again, if you've put your skill points in Shinobi, you will have that ability, so don't worry about it. But of course, when you have more than 4 guards in the map, you need to be careful which ones you choose to kill. Sometimes you'll have guards that are static and some that patrol. Sometimes it can be completely random, but usually I tend to take out guards that can be patrolling because it stops them from going into certain areas that might be a problem for you, and then you can just physically avoid static guards and not go in the way of their line of sight. So really it takes a bit of tact and a bit of kind of cunning to decide where you actually want to go, where you want to explore, and what guards you want to actually not have to deal with. But always keep in mind that there may be more than 4 guards, and in a lot of the newer heists, they usually tend to be. You also need to remember that guards can literally spot anything from drills to loot bags to sentry guns to anything you could possibly conceive that you might have placed down, for example, for a stealth heist. Apart from deployables, they don't tend to notice doctor bags, ammo bags, body bags, that kind of thing, or ECM jammers. Not that you need a doctor bag, but they don't tend to notice those. But anything else, chances are they'll see it, or even they'll hear it. If you have a drill that doesn't have kind of silent skills on it, the guard will hear it, they'll approach it, see it, and then go, oh dear, better do something about this, and call for help. So always keep an eye out that a guard is not going to see or hear something that you're doing in the heist, or that if he's going to, you are able and planned basically to deal with it, so that you don't have a problem, you don't get ambushed by a guard and then have to restart the heist. The other bane of your existence other than guards is cameras. Cameras, just like guards, can spot literally anything conceivable on the map. However, they can be destroyed in certain difficulties. If you're playing a stealth heist up to and including the overkill difficulty, you can literally destroy a camera by shooting at it, meleeing it, whatever you want to do. However, when you do so, a signal is sent out to all guards in the map that there is a camera broken. Now, if you have any guards left alive, one by one they'll start to investigate this camera, and basically, given long enough time, more than 4 guards will have looked at it if you have more than 4 guards on the map, and you'll end up with an issue. So, usually, don't take cameras out at all, is my advice, unless you're in a heist where there's 4 guards and you can lure them out one by one. But really, it's very unpredictable as to when they move. They don't all just go one after the other. They kind of wait a bit, and then all of a sudden there's one kind of walking around, and you go, oh, I wasn't watching for you, you just appeared out of nowhere. So, really, I wouldn't destroy cameras if you can help it, unless perhaps there isn't a camera operator, who I'll talk about in a second, and you've killed all of the patrolling guards, just knock out all the cameras you want. There are very few scenarios where that will actually apply, but usually if you want to take out cameras, as I've said, you want to kill the camera operator. Now granted, he won't appear in every single heist, but things like Bank Heist, Diamond Store, the Big Bang, the Golden Ring Casino, but that's actually done by an objective rather than you killing them. But there are camera operators who, when killed, will no longer see anything through cameras, and basically cameras just stare at you blankly and don't notice anything. So if you take out a camera operator and a bag gets thrown in front of the camera, don't worry, nothing will happen, the alarm will not go off unless a physical guard sees it. And again, as I've said, it doesn't appear in every heist. There are certain heists where you can't disable the cameras physically, other than by using one of two things. First off, an ECM jammer. An ECM jammer delays a camera's response and stops them from looking from roughly 20 seconds, and with ECM skills on top, again, Shinobi skill tree, lasts roughly 30 seconds or perhaps just slightly under 30 seconds. Other than that, you can use camera loop. Camera loop is a nifty little technique where you basically loop the same piece of footage in the camera for a certain period of time. I think the maximum amount of time is 20 seconds in the skill, I seem to remember, but I haven't checked the actual figure for a while, so I'm not quite sure. Basically though, that's just another way of using an ECM jammer, except you have to actually be at the camera to use the camera loop, and you have to interact with it. It takes a few seconds and then the loop is deployed. Now this is different to an ECM jammer because if you put a jammer down anywhere in the map, it will disable all cameras for the period of time the jammer is active, and yes, you can overlap jammers, so if you put one down just as another one's about to end, it will chain together and the amount of time the cameras can't see will be extended, just as it would if you were trying to delay pages, for example. That is the usual technique for ECM rushing on heists like Shadow Raid, where basically you chain and you coordinate your ECM jammers so you have a period of about 3 minutes-ish, where you can just go into a map, steal what you want, and get out before the alarm goes off. That's how Shadow Raid is done for people who don't want to actually physically stealth it, but that's not something I want to talk about in this video, not this heist, because I want to focus more on actually being sneaky, having your sneaky pants on, and trying to get in and out without being seen at all, rather than leaving a bunch of dead bodies that don't have pages answered. So that's the thing to consider though, so remember that there are different ways to deal with cameras, but destroying them is the last resort for any heist at all. And as I said, cameras can only be destroyed up to and including the overkill difficulty. That's because on Mayhem and above, you actually have what's called Titan cameras. Titan cameras can be disabled in the exact same way if you kill the operator, if you use a camera loop, or if you use an ECM jammer, that will still disable the cameras. However, all it has is an extra metal casing that is grenade proof, shot proof, melee proof, gun proof, basically proof of anything you could do to damage the physical camera. You can't do it anymore. I don't know whether I quite believe that a grenade wouldn't be able to destroy it, but that's how it works in the game, so nothing can actually deal with it. But anyway, you shouldn't bring grenades into a stealth heist anyway. I've said that already, but I just thought I'd reiterate it. And speaking of difficulties, as I've said, you can have Titan cameras on Mayhem and above, but also the amount of objectives you have to do can also increase. For instance, the amount of jewelry bags you need in jewelry store can shoot up as you increase in difficulty, and on Mayhem and above, you need 8 jewelry bags, and one of which will always be locked behind a Titan safe in the back of the jewelry store that can't be lockpicked and needs a 6-minute drill. So you can't literally rush in, grab the bags and get out on that difficulty. You have to stick around and clear the place out and get a drill going. So keep in mind that, difficulty changes don't just impact loud, they also impact stealth. So just instantly going on 1 down stealth doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be as easy as normal stealth. It certainly won't be. Always keep that in mind. Now, although I've already talked about ECM jammers, there is another deployable I would also like to mention that is called the body bag case. You're probably familiar with it, but here's a few little statistics on how they work. Now, a heister with fully upgraded stealth skills can carry up to 3 body bags, but will only spawn in at the start of the heist with 2. A body bag case can give you up to 3 extra body bags and can be shared between players, and the player themselves can carry up to 2 of the cases on their own individually, meaning you can have a total of 8 body bag cases and 24 body bags extra if the entire crew was to bring them along. Body bag cases are usually useful in heists where there are, several guards and also civilians that you have to take care of. Sometimes you can't just cable tie a civilian and move them over to a location. You really will just have to kill them and move the body bags. I do it, it's just something you have to do sometimes. But you need to remember not to bring too many body bag cases. Bringing too many is just as bad as not bringing enough. Because if you bring too many cases and sacrifice ECM jammers that you would otherwise use to open doors perhaps with certain skills, or use them on ATMs, there's other abilities of ECM jammers you may not know about. But if you do that, then you're also disadvantaging your crew. It won't be the end of the day, usually, but it can make a bit of a difference. So plan accordingly and think, okay, we might need, 1 or 2 more body bag cases. Let's bring those along just in case. Not everyone bring body bag cases, we're going to have a massacre here. Because that's not really what stealth is about. Again, you want to try and be sneaky, not a homicidal maniac. And other than that, general tips I would advise that I've picked up over the time of playing stealth. First off, with guards, if they spot you, they will initially not shoot you, they'll try and move over to you and cuff you. In that time, you can actually move slowly back a little bit and possibly lure them around. But if you move too far, the guard will react and try and shoot you. Also, if a guard has spotted you and pulled their gun out and you try to kill them, there is a likelihood they will fire the gun and it will be heard by everyone around them. Keep that in mind, and that's another reason why killing guards when they can't see you and haven't noticed you is the best option. Facing guards when they've seen you is a last resort. I honestly really believe you should just stay quiet and only kill them when they don't know you're there. And just honestly, try and be more tactical about it, try and be stealthy about it. That's the whole point of being quiet. Also, with silent saws, I have found myself, it might just be a glitch, but if you use a silent saw really close to a civilian or a guard, and I mean like within really, really close proximity, they actually do still hear it. All it does is reduce the range that the saw can be heard from. I think the base saw can be heard from up to 10 meters away by anyone else on the map, but the silent saw is probably like 1 or 2 meters. So, silent means hushed in Payday's terms. So, something else to keep in mind that I learned from very, very painful and miserable experience, I've got to tell you that much. And finally, as I draw this video to a close, my final tip is practice. Something I say all the time about Payday when you want to get good at a heist, really, you need to keep trying. Not everything will go well your first time. Certain heists like jewelry store and bank heist don't require many goes, but if you really want to master stealth and get used to some of the really hard heists, you're going to have to give them a lot of tries and a lot of effort and a lot of time to get into them, get used to them, and honestly, to quote Yoda, I don't know why I'm thinking of a Yoda quote right now, but it fits quite well. He said that failure is the best teacher. And honestly, as nerdy as that sounds, that I'm quoting Yoda and quoting Star Wars, that is the best thing I can say for Payday 2. You will find that in a lot of these stealth heists, you'll fail a lot before you actually get used to it. Don't be disheartened by that. I have been through that phase. I've been playing this game and stealthing in this game for nearly 3 years. I understand how difficult it can be at times and how frustrating it can be. And also, some days, things just won't go your way. You'll keep playing a heist, you'll keep failing it. Just take a step back, try something different. It happens to the best of us, and honestly, keep that in mind. Don't think that everything will go the way you want it straight away, because it really, really won't. But guys, that'll about do it for this tips and tricks video. I do hope that you have enjoyed it. If you did, please feel free to give it a thumbs up. In the description below, I'm leaving a link to the stealth article on the Payday wiki. If you fancy some late night reading, you want to know a little bit more about stealth, that's the perfect place to go. But if you do want to just ask me some questions, as always, let's get talking in the comments section below. But other than that, if you guys would like to see a loud video, a loud variant of this, where I talk more about, say, police assaults and different types of enemies, when they spawn, all that kind of stuff, if you want to know about that, leave a like on this video, leave a comment down below, things you wanted me to talk about in another video. If you have suggestions for any other content in general, always leave them down below. I get most of the ideas for videos from you guys, so you may find that your video idea is next week's video. But other than that, thank you all very much for watching. Leave a like if you have enjoyed, it helps a lot. Subscribe if you're new. And other than that, thank you all very much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. Take it easy.